Hello, it's your Uncle Spurt here, and today we're having a ruddy good squint at the Omen Max 16. And this is easily Omen's most powerful gaming laptop to date. They've crammed in an NVIDIA 50 series GPU, plus a tasty bit of Intel Core Ultra 200 series action to make this laptop beefier than a cow pie. Now check out the link in the video description for the latest deals and discounts on the Omen Max 16, and a massive thanks to Omen for sponsoring this video, keeping the old lights on in TechSpert Towers. Cheers! So let's begin with that design, which is so black Batman would surely approve. Now the Omen Max 16 is quite obviously a gaming laptop, as if the RGB shenanigans wasn't enough to give it away. It's not exactly a slender wee beastie. This amount of performance requires a fairly chunky chassis to contain it all, but also ensure you've got good airflow. And indeed, Omen has increased the gap between the motherboard and the keyboard, as well as the fan gap, to ensure this laptop remains as cool as possible. You've got yourself an all-metal chassis here, so it certainly feels suitably durable. No hints of flex. The lid feels pretty tough as well. Those hinges feel like they could put up with a fair bit of punishment too, but of course it's all about that RGB lighting. That keyboard lighting is naturally fully customizable, and it does work on a per key basis as well. Well, you've also got yourself a front-facing light bar, again completely customizable. You can sync it up with the keyboard for an extra bit of ambiance. Outside of the obligatory light show, of course, the design here is pretty subtle and smart. A wee bit of branding here and there, but nothing over the top, certainly. And when it comes to ports, well, you've got them. Most of them are housed around the back here. So you got yourself one of two USB-A ports supporting 10 gigabits throughput. You got your HDMI 2.1 and of course, naturally some Ethernet action. Over on the right edge, you'll find yourself a second USB-A port. And then last up on the opposite edge, you've got yourself dual Thunderbolt 4 ports. So certainly as good as you'd expect from a modern gaming laptop. You can get plenty of external displays hooked up if you want a full-on immersive experience, whatever you fancy. Now naturally, Omen will allow you to configure your Max 16 laptop to suit your own personal needs. But my review model here came with the Intel Core Ultra 9 275HX processor, backed by 32 gigs of RAM. I've also got NVIDIA's RTX 5080 laptop GPU, but this can be configured with up to the RTX 5090. And part of the joy of Omen laptops is just how easy they are to fiddle about with and overclock. All you've got to do is dive on into the Omen Gaming Hub, and this gives you fast access to all kinds of fantastic features. Let's start in the Performance tab. And this is absolutely packed with shortcuts to all of the best tools and features. So for instance, you can quickly change up the power mode. Outside of gaming and heavy creative tasks, you'll just want to keep this on balanced or eco mode, because it'll just be using a fraction of that potential power. But then as soon as things get serious, you want to get some gaming on the go, you'll want to stick it in that unleashed mode. And this is just an easy, effortless way to get overclocking on the Omen Max 16, really make the most of the ridiculous horsepower stuffed in there. Or if you'd rather get a bit more hands-on, you can always dive on into the Advanced Performance Tuning tab, which gives you full manual control over the active core tuning and how much voltage each core can suck up. And you can also indulge in a bit of GPU overclocking. You can fine-tune that CPU up to 160 watts TDP, while the GPU maxes out at 175 watts TGP. And you'll also notice there's a fresh new Omen AI feature stuck away in the Gaming Hub. And this is for anyone who's really not a fan of manually fiddling around with an individual game's settings to get the best possible performance. The idea is that the Omen AI basically does it on your behalf, so your chosen title runs as well as possible. However, it is currently in beta, so it only supports a couple of popular titles right now, but hopefully should expand in the near future. Now, if you know your Uncle Spurt, you'll know that I like benchmarking about as much as I like a tofu salad. But of course, if I don't do it, I get called all kinds of naughty words in the comments bit. So I dutifully plugged in the Omen Max 16, stuck it on endurance mode, make sure all the power settings were maxed out, and then ran the good old benchmarks. Now started with an obligatory bit of Geekbench, which coughed out a single core score of 3033, multi-core score almost topping 20,000. Certainly a solid showing for that Intel chipset. Next up was Cinebench, and here we got a multi-core result of 1,964 points, while the single core score was 133. And then a good bit of 3D Mark action, and Time Spy Extreme shat out a rather beefy 10,596. So this app estimates you can play AAA titles like Battlefield and GTA at 1440p resolution with a ridiculously smooth frame rate. And I followed this up with a few runs of Steel Nomad, which also impressed with a score consistently topping 5,000, while that stress test was passed with a stability score of 97.9%. Bananarama. And when it came to the gaming, I thought I'd try the fresh new Clair Obscur Expedition 33? Right, my French is a bit rusty, as you might be able to tell. And this is one of the latest memory guzzling, resource demanding PC titles. I boosted it up to the epic graphics levels and made sure DLSS was switched on and then gave it a go. And on these absolutely maxed out settings, the game ran beautifully for the vast majority of the time I spent with it. The OMEN MAX 16 did stumble on 2 occasions throughout the many hours that I spent running around this gorgeous but slightly demented landscape, cursing my tediously slow old man reactions whenever I had to get involved in a bit of fisticuffs. But besides those 2 judders, the frame rate stayed reassuringly smooth, even when I blazed well past the 2-hour mark. Good old Game Bar reported a stable frames per second level hovering between 40 and 60 for the majority of my playtime, regardless of how long I'd been gaming, with the frame rate occasionally reaching towards those high 60s. An absolutely stellar bit of performance for a gaming laptop, ensuring I had a really ruddy good time, at least when I wasn't getting my arse handed to me by random gribbly things. And I also blazed my way through loads of Helldivers too, and this defaulted to the ultra quality settings at 1600p resolution. And that frame rate was almost always flickering around the low hundreds, even with dozens of horrible alien buggers all trying their level best to twat me into next week. So I absolutely cannot blame the OMEN MAX 16 for my frankly pathetic attempts to prevent the extermination of the human race. Just pray that I never have to do this intergalactic war stuff for real, cause I'll most likely just run off and hide in a cupboard with as much whiskey and spare pairs of pants as I can carry. But of course, with this kind of raw throbbing performance, you don't want your laptop getting so hot that it actually melts its way through the desk. And that's where Omen's Tempest Cooling Protec comes in handy. And this involves various cooling measures, including a super wide vapor chamber, which now covers just over 60% of the motherboard, as well as of course some dual built-in fan action. And speaking of those fans, these can spin at up to 6,000 RPM, which gets rather dramatic, shall we say. Here we are at 3,800 RPM, still rising, 4,800 RPM, and now maxing out at 6,000 RPM. The old Peace Lily's getting a proper good airing. So yeah, unsurprisingly, things get a wee bit noisy when those fans hit their peak. The rest of that cooling tech certainly does its job to keep things as serene as possible. It's only if you start absolutely maxing out all of the visual settings and playing for hours that it starts to really boost those fans up to the top speeds. And it's great to see that Omen hasn't neglected maintenance either, because these fans can actually clean themselves by spinning in reverse to clear out any dust and other cack that's built up inside. And this can be manually activated, as I've just done, or else it'll automatically happen whenever those thermals are at a safe level. You can see there we're currently at minus 3,700 RPM. Now of course you can have the beefiest performance in the world, but if your games look like utter cack, it's not really much good, is it? But thankfully the OMEN MAX 16 boasts a rather splendid IPS display, the WQXGA resolution, that's 2560 by 1600 pixels. Although you can, if you wish to, upgrade to an OLED model for even crispier contrast. But this IPS screen is supremely bright and poppy. You can actually get gaming outdoors on this thing, helped along by the anti-glare finish. As you can see, they're barely perturbed at all, even by the supremely fierce studio lights. That refresh rate ranges from 60 Hz all the way up to a creamy smooth 240 Hz. Got a 0.2 millisecond response time and full variable refresh rate support naturally. And that GeForce GPU serves up full DLSS support as well. So really demanding titles can be rendered at a lower resolution, and then AI can boost those visuals to an even crispier finish to really make the most of that high resolution display. And certainly bugger all complaints on the audio front. Either you got speakers blasting that sound right at your face, proper bassy, beefy audio as well if you don't fancy slapping a headset on your buns. And I do quite like Omen's built-in keyboard as well, even though there's no clear separation of those keys. It's certainly a pleasingly firm board, no give in there, as you can see. And as ever, the RGB lighting shenanigans fully customizable via the Omen Light Studio. So you can select individual zones and color them however you like, or do it on a key-by-key basis. As for the battery life, well, yank the plug out of the OMEN MAX 16 and it lasts about as long as you'd expect a gaming laptop to last. So for example, playing the old Expedition 33 on that unleashed power mode, you can expect roughly an hour and 15 minutes of action from a full charge. And there you have it, my lovelies. That in a tasty wee nutshell is the fresh new OMEN MAX 16, Omen's beefiest gaming laptop to date. Be great to hear your thoughts on this chunkster down in the comments below. Don't forget to check out the links in the video description to see the latest deals and discounts if you fancy having one of these bad boys slapped on your desk at home. And massive thanks again to Omen for sponsoring this video, keeping the old lights on at Techspert Towers. Please do poke, subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech. And have yourselves a really wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you!